I'm gonna turn.
With Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wellfleet Environmental Protection Bylaw, will hold a public hearing via Zoom video conference on Wednesday, August 17th, 2022 at 5 p.m., preceded by the Conservation Commission's business meeting. In attendance, we have Leon Shreves, Benjamin Fairbank, Michael Fisher, and Marty Murphy. So we have a quorum. Do you want to talk? Shall we talk with Seth first?
I think that would be good. That way he doesn't have to hang on the line while we hash out other things.
Right. Seth, are you there?
He looks like he's on the phone. So let's see if we can ask him to unmute. Seth?
There we go. Seth.
Hi there.
Hi.
Yes, Seth is here. Had to go through the dial tone to unmute. So what we're proposing to do is just another sand nourishment treatment at this site. We've done this in the past. This is in the past we had done the sand nourishment when there had not been some sand-filled envelopes in place. So we've reduced the volume of sand to around 700 cubic yards, and this basically the envelopes are still in pretty good shape. We expect this will probably be the last winter. They'll probably completely deflate this winter if there's any considerable storms. So just trying to make sure it lasts through the winter. So preemptively putting some sand nourishment on it, which as Hillary noted was sort of an allowance from the original order to build the home.
Are you going to be,
all the techniques would be the same as previously.
So they'll go from the top of the cliff and you'll spread it that way? Will
it would be focused over the actual envelopes and to the north and south at the terminal ends, just to sort of cover them up. We've really had some very nice recruitment of American beachgrass growing on the bank. So not much would be on over the beachgrass, probably a little bit, but not anything appreciable.
Okay, good. Yeah, the grass is looking really great there. Well, this is on the outside. It's on the bay, so I guess the concerns about migration and things don't really apply here as much as they do inside the harbor. So you said that you're saying some depletion of the envelopes after the last year or two?
Yeah, it's running the normal course of the envelopes. They're a short-term measure, and there's been a little bit of movement. We submitted some imagery. I don't know if Hillary was able to circulate that. We monthly monitor per the most recent order. It was done under the emergency certification. So Steve or others from our office go by monthly regularly and inspect the envelopes, and we did include a series of imagery for you to take a look at that.
I have it on the screen now, Seth, for us to look at.
All right, great. So you can see some of the bottom rolls have moved a little bit. Again, it's intact, it's working, it's doing what envelopes are supposed to do. But my sense is that later, sometime this winter, we'll probably see some more significant deflation, and we may hit that criteria, at which time it's ready. Basically, we're expecting to probably have to rebuild the envelopes in the fall. Next fall of 2023, that is.
Right. Is there much erosion at the ends, scarfing it, the scarf?
I haven't seen any sort of end effects that you would see like adjacent to a coastal engineering structure, but the landform has migrated landward, generally north and south. Hundreds of feet in either direction.
Does anybody on the commission have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Mike.
So in the more recent picture, the stairs have been removed. Is that the current situation?
Yes, my understanding. So the ownership has changed since I was last before you. and the new owners have not been putting in the last section of stairs, sort of from 2-3-22 on in the imagery. There's no stairs, and that's currently the situation right up until this month. There's no stairs that sort of run from that bottom landing down to the beach.
Okay, if Hillary could go back to the most recent of them, it looked to me like there was no stairs at all, but the question I have is, we were uncertain as to whether the stairs had any effect on the stability of the bank.
Do you have any feelings on that, Seth?
We haven't seen any direct correlation between the stairway and, I mean, it's a rapidly eroding landform. You know, this sort of landform that runs this stretch of Wellfleet. You know, we've seen good beach grass right up and under the stairway. Haven't seen any sort of direct correlations myself.
Okay, because that was one of the things we wanted to keep an eye on to see if in fact it had any sort of effect.
It sounds like it doesn't.
But it also looks like it wasn't installed.
Well, when last we looked at this, when we did the emergency one, wasn't there no stairs at all going down the cliff? I
believe that is the case. Yeah, I've certainly seen it. It's different at different times of years, and now we've got different owners treating it differently. I believe the prior owners would remove it top to bottom in the winter, and then reinstall in the spring, and to use it for the summer months. And the current owner is only installing down to that landing. It hasn't. This summer we haven't seen any stairs beyond that lowest
I
landing.
think for the emergency request that you placed, one of the terms of condition was that that if anything is going to be put onto that cliff, we wanted it to come before us first, and that seems to have been ignored by the previous.
I believe it was anything new, and the stairway's was issued back with the home. My understanding was any new place to have any new structures.
See, this one is from, oh, that's at 2021, sorry.
Yeah, March of 2021.
Right. So this, what you're presenting, Seth, is just for our information since it's already been approved?
Yeah, I just asked him to
really
come so he could detail the sand nourishment and the placement and the amount and where it was going.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's looking pretty good. It looks like it's been holding up as well as we expected it to, and it's doing the job. Have they seen any significant erosion at the top of the cliff near the house, as far as you know?
Not since the envelopes have gone in and the bank became stabilized. I believe we have stopped the erosion for the moment.
Okay, glad to hear that. Okay, do we have to vote or anything?
I would just vote to allow the beach nourishment to commence, just so it's on the record.
Okay, I move that we allow the beach nourishment at 1440 Quequecet Neck Road.
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Okay, Michael
Yes.
and Benjamin
Yes.
and Marty
Yes.
and Leon, yes. So you're good to go there, Seth. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you all
Can
very
I
much.
just
Have a
ask
good-
Seth one quick thing? Could you put up some silt fence along Quequecet Neck Road? Because I believe we had the contractors driving farther to the marsh side than we wanted in the past. So if there's just a silt fence up, maybe that would prevent them along the edge of the road.
Sure. So that would be just to be sure I'm understanding, like on the west side of Quequecet Neck.
Yeah, I was trying to orient
No,
myself with the north arrow.
No.
It might be the,
Yeah.
No, it's on the
it's
east.
the east. It's on the east.
Okay. So the harbor side.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. It's always hard when it's not perfectly aligned with north
Yes,
south.
on the
Yeah,
east
sure.
side.
Yep. We can put some some silt barriers or some staking there to make sure they're not driving into the
Perfect.
marsh side.
Thank you.
I'm sure that'll stop them.
All right.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
So do we have we had any mail, Hillary?
You haven't had any mail, but I did email Ron Kielb, who had a jurisdictional opinion. So I'm just seeing, oh, he sent me a digital copy so we can undertake his jurisdictional opinion if and when you're ready.
Why don't we do that now?
Okay. So it's opening up his project description. This is on his property on the state highway. He would like to request the removal of 2 invasive black locust trees that are leaning and compromised due to the high water table. Unfortunately, due to the high water table and wet location of our property, as well as the notoriously shallow root system of the black locust, we have had a number of issues with our locust trees over the past few years. In the past, we've had 2 large trees that heaved, one towards our home and one towards our neighbor's home on the south side of our lot, as well as 2 other large locusts that ended up falling, one of which was actually leaning towards our neighbors on the north side and was blown to our side by a strong windstorm. We currently have 2 remaining compromised invasive black locust trees on our side yard that would pose a direct threat to our home during a nor'easter, and we would like to have them cut down before hurricane season. We also propose to mitigate the loss of biomass by planting 2 native dogwood trees that will remain smaller and less imposing. Tree number 1 is leaning towards our home, as well as having the majority of its branches reaching the house. This uneven weight distribution, as well as the high water table and wet location, put the tree at risk of seriously damaging our home in the event it is falling. Tree number 2 is covered in unhealthy English ivy and has a slight lean towards the neighbor's property. It has branches and is also compromised due to the high water table. The trees would be cut down by an arborist that would cut and lower branches to the ground and remove the material off-site to minimize any disturbance. To help restore the lost biomass of these 2 hazardous trees we want removed, we would like to plant 2 native dogwood trees as mitigation. Photos of each tree and a site map with planned dogwood planting locations are as follows. And I think I can share the screen and show you.
What's the location of this again, Hillary?
It's
3187 State
State
Highway,
Highway.
map 13, parcel 69.
Okay. Oh,
That's the one.
you can
And
tell
this is
that-
the second one.
That looks pretty bad.
And I was out there and I have seen these trees. And it does seem like a fair application.
Yeah, I think so too. Locusts are very brittle. They'll break pretty easily.
And the ones that have gone down have been, disastrous.
I move that this wouldn't be an RDA then?
No, it's just 2 trees. So he can take 2 trees down on the jurisdictional opinion.
All right, well, I move that we approve this jurisdictional opinion.
I'll second it.
Okay, Benjamin,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes,
Marty,
Yes,
and Leon, yes. So that's good to go.
And Chris, that's 3187 State Highway. And it's map 13, parcel 69.
We have some meeting minutes to approve. Did everybody get a chance to look at those that Michael presented? They look fine to me, so I move that we approve them.
I'd second.
Okay, thank you. Marty, you're being a good second today. Benjamin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Michael,
yes.
Marty,
Yes,
and Leon, yes. Do we have anything else to discuss during our business meeting?
Well, I can tell you, we've been out actively stickering boats. We're getting a lot of traction there. We had,
A lot of blowback from it?
well, blowback traction, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. We had a lot of boats at the Pleasant Point Boat Rack. So we worked with Hillel Gedrich, whose number I had from their water system, to send a bulk email out to those folks. So we are slowly getting those boats into compliance, which is great. And then we talked about Lieutenant's Island and the meeting with Melissa at our last meeting. And then we have down King Philip Road, we have boats there on state property, and we are going to sticker those as well and target them for removal. So
Have you been removing quite a few boats?
yeah, we've been removing boats and stickering boats. So
Wow.
the boat we've been busy boating. We've followed up
Boating.
boating. 35 weighs 60. We've gone back and forth with the contractor there. The silt fence should be back up today, and they put in some foundation drainage. So I told him that had to be removed immediately and shown on the site plan. So we're working with them.
Is all of the rubbish and
Yes.
Debris gone?
Yes, that was all supposed
They
to be
had piles
removed.
of sand outside the.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we had a couple complaints about a dock at 101 Commercial Street, which is a property owned by the Barishkins. We went out there to have a look at that dock, and it's really a rudimentary structure. It doesn't seem, it's not a, I don't want to call it a dock because it's like some kind of ancient floating structure, but no work had been done to it, and clearly it had been there a long time. So my guess is that it predates probably the Wetlands Protection Act, and I let them know that they couldn't have a dock there. You know, there's no hope of repairing and putting anything back there. So when that thing disintegrates, it will be removed.
And where's this on Commercial?
Next to Max Shack.
Oh, down by the red building there?
Yes, yep,
Yeah.
right to the right if you're facing.
Right, okay.
And then we've sent out second enforcement letters to 2 or 3 different properties. So it's busy. And the tent at CYCC was down last week when we went by. So
The back to the boats. Are we saying that it's improving thing in general, that awareness is growing, that leaving your boats on the grass is a bad thing? Or do you just?
it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and it requires constant maintenance. It's a big job. So I don't know. And I feel like people move the boats. So we sticker them, and then they just move like several feet down the beach. So I'm not sure.
It's like people reparking their car to get rid of the chalk marks.
Yeah, like they just, yes.
Are you getting
But-
any support from the rec department?
No, we get support from Will, the harbor master. Sorry, I just realized my video was off. I'm sorry. We get support from Will, the harbor master, in removing them.
Doesn't the rec department do the permits though for racks, town racks?
No, that goes through the beach department. So we permit Pleasant Point, and they permit the other locations. But where the boats are showing up, there are no racks.
Well, I hope that this good work will make a longer term improvement on the situation if people, especially if they're returning summer after summer, maybe. They'll do.
Have we heard anything from the new owners of the boat rental,
Jacks, you mean?
Jack's?
Well, we have Jax, and then we have Nigel, 2 boat rental companies. And we have interfaced with both of them on where they can go and how many boats and pick up and drop off. So So yes, we've heard from them and so far so good.
Any other things?
Well, I think that Jack's has some boats at the end of Old Pier, which are
I think you're going through a time
on the
there.
beach, so they're in good shape. I don't see any problem at Old Pier.
You still there, Michael? We couldn't understand a word of that.
Word.
You were losing, you're losing your bit rate, I think.
It sounded jumbled up.
Am I incomprehensible?
Ooh, I don't know.
Okay,
Just so
Okay.
you know. Whatever you said, I'm sure it was very cogent. Any other subjects for discussion?
We had the Board of Health hearing on the new enhanced IA regulations last week.
Mhm.
John Cumbler was there and he spoke, which was good. There was little to no pushback, which was nice. So I think the message is getting out there too on that front. So that's promising.
Can we now bring that up when we are looking?
Yeah.
at it?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
is it official yet? Is it published, official, and sanctioned?
Yep.
Oh, okay, great. Well, that's good to know.
It wasn't approved yet because we're still going to hold another public hearing and we're going to hold a bigger public meeting. So I would say by January 1, it will be regulation.
Okay, but we should merely say that that's a regulation that's waiting to be approved,
Yep.
and it's likely to be, I take it.
Yes.
Good. That's wonderful. John will be a very happy person.
Yeah, he was there. So I think
Mm-hmm.
he.
Good. Anything else that we needed to discuss? Otherwise, we can take a break until 5. I move that we adjourn the business meeting until 5 o'clock, where we'll start the hearings.
I'll second that.
All right, Benjamin, you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, and Michael,
yes.
Marty,
Yes.
and Leon, yes. So we'll be seeing you in a half hour at 5 o'clock.
Very good.
Thank you.
Leon, let's just wait to start the hearings until we hear from Gabriel that he's ready, because it's not quite 5 o'clock yet.
Okay.
I'm here. Just give me one moment and I'll start it up.
We still have 2 minutes.
Okay, great. Yeah, just give me a minute heads up and then I'll start the recording and the broadcast. Thanks.
Minutes heads up.
Also, sorry, before we start, Leon, I was just wondering if it was possible to increase your microphone volume or get closer,
Yeah.
just because
Yeah.
you're relatively quiet compared to everyone else.
Okay. I can.
Great,
That's
thank
very
you.
unusual.
Leon's never quiet.
Oh, yeah.
And hi, Gordon. Good to see you. I think you're muted, but it's nice to see you.
I'm muted for everyone's protection.
Let's see. How can I do this? Test increasing microphone. Stop that.
All right, it's probably 1 minute, Gabriel.
I'll just talk louder. I don't seem to be able to.
I'm starting the recording.
We're still waiting for Ben, aren't we?
Yep, we are. We don't have a quorum yet.
He'll be back soon.
Is this better, Gabriel?
Much better, thank you.
Okay. Hillary, how's Meredith doing?
Well, she's on the mend. She's still quite ill.
Sorry to hear that.
She's gonna be okay.
Good. Glad to hear that. Okay, Ben.
There's my clock.
Okay, we now have a quorum. Benjamin's here. Please take notice that the Wellfleet Conservation Commission, in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wellfleet Environmental Protection Bylaw, will hold a public hearing via Zoom video conference on Wednesday, August 17th, 2022 at 5 p.m. Currently, we have in attendance Martin Murphy, Michael Fisher, Benjamin Fairbank, and Leon Shreve. So we have a quorum. All right, Mr. Borringer. Good evening, good afternoon.
Good.
So when we last left you, you were going to take out some stepping stones, I believe?
That is correct. And photographs were passed on to Hillary and Meredith showing the removal.
Okay. And Hillary, you got those, right?
Yep, I have the photographs and I have the as-built, which we also requested, that shows the compressor and the location.
Right. So all that's taken care of?
The only thing we do not have is the letter from Ryder and Wilcox about the drainage.
And I talked
And
to David today again, and he said he'd get it to you. And so that does not happen.
That did not happen.
All right. Sorry.
That's okay. So we can't issue the certificate without that. And the other issue of the stairwell is ongoing, but we're working on that too. Not on
Hillary?
Bob's property, the common stairwell.
Hillary, can I ask about that?
Yeah.
What is the story with are we checking with council as to the stairway, or what's the story?
No, we're not checking with our council. We know that the stairway was installed. We know that they cut through the top of the coastal bank to install the stairway. Any
But my-
change in plans for the stairway would have required a trip back before us, so you can't just cut through the bank to install a stairway down. The previous stairway didn't cut through the top of the coastal bank in that fashion. There was a path, but the erosion got rid of the path. So the stairway has been changed and modified over time. So we're
My
just
question,
trying
my question is responsibility.
So the responsibility does not fall just to Bob for the stairway because all of the neighbors put in the stairway. The contractor who put in the stairway should be held accountable because they should know better than to cut through coastal banks without coming before us. So we have
Okay.
yet to determine who put in the stairway, and we'll address that at a later date when we hear back from Doug Freeman on how long the stairs have been there. Because if they predated the Wetlands Protection Act, then they can certainly have a set of stairs down that bank. But the construction would be permitted through us. So,
I've been out there and have seen it, okay, and it's dangerous.
yeah, for sure.
In addition to cutting through the bank, it's dangerous.
Mhm. Pretty
Well,
steep.
I think it's probably better than the rope that used to be there to get up
Well-
and down. I mean, I think it's a little better than the rope, but I have not traveled up and down the staircase.
Nor would you want to.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to. Mr. Barnes, I'm afraid we can't issue the certificate tonight until we get that letter.
Can I comment on that swale?
Sure, go ahead.
Typically a dry well that's we put in are 18 inches in diameter and they're 2 feet deep. So if you take the volume of that compared to the volume of the swale that they engineered, being 2 feet deep, 5 feet wide, and 10 feet long, it far surpasses the dry wells that are typically put in.
And Hillary, we were waiting for,
Yeah, we were waiting for a letter from the engineer on it. So I'm gonna suggest we continue to wait for that because that has a stamp associated with it.
Okay.
okay?
Can-
Otherwise,
Thank
you're
you.
in good shape.
I'm sorry.
I said, other than that, you're in good shape. Thank you.
Okay, I guess two questions if I could.
Sure.
One is whatever the situation with the stairs is, which as Hillary pointed out, is a community set of stairs. Is that potentially going to hold me up or is that at this point separated from this?
I think it's separate at this point because clearly it wasn't just you that decided to install the stairs and hire the contractor and put the stairs in.
No.
No,
No.
and it wasn't in the original.
And then the second question though is the planning plan question, Hillary, which really got to, I think I can put this up if that's, but there was some debate or the request was to benefit my neighbor who would like some screening. You know, these plants over here, these trees he's requested that I install, and I asked Hillary about it and she said, well, we need to submit a formal plan. So this I passed in back in June and we just haven't had ever a chance to look at it. And I think there was the main concern, Hillary, was just making sure the species were indigenous species.
Yes, exactly, and native. And I'm looking for that.
Down below here, because and the initial contractor, I guess, was Barry Johnson of Johnson Tree Farm in Osterville, is who I contacted, and he gave me what he typically installs in seashore properties, which include white spruce, black cherry, black pine, and then I guess pitch pine, and also American red cedar. I think were the four, and we were just in June. What was available wasn't, the cedars had been basically completely wiped out in terms of availability. But since this is not going to happen until the next planting season, that may become an option. That may be a legitimate option as well. So I guess the question is, what's permitted in your mind, and is this an adequate plan for you to review and to consider?
So I would change the Rosa rugosa to the Rosa virginiana.
Okay. And I can look up how to spell that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the white flower. It's the white flower instead of the pink.
Okay.
Virginia.
Can I ask a question? Why?
One is native and one is not.
Oh, okay. The white is native?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't even, forgive my ignorance, did not know that.
That's
I did
fine.
not know that either.
Don't feel like the Lone Ranger.
The pitch pine, the Japanese black pine, I don't think we want. Ben,
Okay.
can you weigh in on the pines? Pitch pine is fine. Japanese black
Yeah,
pine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's not native. White spruce, I'm not sure is native either. So we might just want to go with pitch pine and maybe white pine.
Yeah.
Is cedar also?
Cedar would be great.
Cedar, yeah.
Okay, and that's the American red cedar,
Yeah.
white pine.
But get rid of the black pine and the
Okay.
white spruce.
Okay, so I'll resubmit this and I'll nudge Ryder Wilcox and see if we can get that letter to you. And
All right.
hope
Great.
2 weeks from now, I guess I'll be saying hi again.
Okay.
No, we're not in 2 weeks. We
Oh.
don't meet on September 7th.
Okay,
We meet on September 21st.
There's one in between, isn't there? September 4th.
No,
Well-
that's Board of Health.
Why aren't we doing the 7th?
Because it's not on our schedule.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll go with that. Oh, I think
We're
it's,
taking a hiatus. I don't know.
The
Okay.
reason why that was chosen is because Labor Day weekend. And because of probably a lot of families, members still here, or kids going to school, I don't know.
okay.
It's not on the
I
calendar.
need the break.
okay.
Okay, is that going to cause you a problem there, Mr. Barger?
No.
Okay. Good.
I love seeing you guys. So yeah, I'll be,
It's always nice to
Thanks,
see your
Bob.
face.
all right. Thanks a lot, folks.
All right, so I move that we continue this until September 21st. The Barger, 164 Cliffs Road, map 24, parcel 100.
Second, Michael?
Benjamin,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
and Leon, yes. So that's continued.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Okay, Lanfranchi, 31st Avenue, map 30, parcel 123, an NOI to construct a 60-foot by 4-foot wood beach access stairway. Somebody here to represent that?
Yeah, this is Roy Okarowski from WRS Engineering representing
Thank
the
you.
Lafranchis.
We were out there this morning and we did not see any stakes indicating where you wanted to put the stairs in. Were
They
you-
pulled the stake, huh? I had a stake right down in the bottom.
Well, we weren't at the bottom, so that's the problem. We were at the top.
Yeah.
But I mean, generally, we want to know where's that 4 feet going, right? And
I know I
which
had
street's gonna be
the center
impacted?
line. I had the center line in. It's pretty, if we could refer to the, I mean, I haven't been there in quite a while since I staked it. If we can refer to the plan, and if you were there, this is an active drone image I just took, not just Google, and it's very evident that there's a thoroughfare running right down in between those trees.
Right, right.
That, and I didn't see, I saw one piece of evidence of something that was cut a while ago, but I didn't see, I kind of thought, I'm like, how did this thoroughfare get here? But then I kind of looked and saw, and I think it was one of the 3 traveled ways that people have been getting down the bank. That's been very disruptive to the bank. And,
Yes.
that's one of the reasons. So if we
Well,
could
we're-
move on without that, we just, if you want it staked and to go back, we can do that.
Now,
after.
well, okay, before we get there, I don't think I have any information on this. Hillary, do you have something you can put up on the screen? What we're looking for is plans for how you're going to stage is it going to have a pad halfway down where you
Yeah,
can rest?
it's on the plans.
Okay, I guess I don't have the plan in front of me. That's the problem.
I'm looking for the plan to open up.
I can do it. I can put it up if nobody else can find it.
Why don't you go ahead then, Roy?
Get in here quick. Hold on. Let's see.
I
So this
actually don't have a copy of the plan in my file either. I have some photographs, but no
It was all
plan.
submitted. Whoops, cannot.
So
I
it's
have
just,
a construction, I
Why
have
didn't that
a
work?
construction protocol.
You don't have any of the packages? We submitted 10 sets of plans.
Yeah, no, I have one package, but I have the construction protocol, but no copy.
Here, I'm getting it up here for you.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
I'm trying to do this. It's not. Choose what to share. Entire screen.
so this is just for constructing a beach access stairway, is that correct? There's nothing else?
That is correct.
I had a question about that because
Can
when
people
we
see
were
that
out
or
there,
no?
when we were out there today, I'm sorry.
No,
I don't think you have it. We're having problems here.
if you email it to me, Roy, I can share the screen.
All right, let me do that right now. Hold on.
So is this stairway going to be elevated 18 inches off the?
Yes, it is.
And that's a pretty steep one. Are you going to have a way? So I guess I'll see it all when I see the plans. But.
Yeah, hold on. Going to you, right, Hillary?
Yeah, Hillary.Lemos.
Yeah, I got you. Hold on.
I have the electronic filing.
All right, you should have the email.
Okay, cool. All right.
We're waiting with bated breath, Hillary.
I don't have it yet. I'm just waiting for it to come through here.
Got to ripple through the inner tubes.
Yeah, it's probably big, so it takes a little time.
Not that.
Yeah, it was pretty clear where the access was right now. So, and there was one. It looked like there was one tree that was going to have to be trimmed and maybe one taken out. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, that's correct. So, down towards about 2/3 of the way down on the right. Oh, she's got it.
There we go.
There we go.
Right. Oh, I see.
And you know what, Roy? I did have this, but there have been a number of people in and out of the office looking at it. I'm wondering if one of them snagged it by accident.
So
currently,
can you zoom up on it, or is that what you can do? So, in answer to the first question, the down about where the 18 foot contour is, we get close in the stairway to a small trim right there, and then at the bottom, when it hits the beach, it kind of it really goes under that tree a bit, but it might catch a few little pieces, but it's a pretty straight shot. And then if we could move down below to the profile, in answer to the other gentleman's question. So we've got proposed 1, 2, 3, 4 landings and a little ramp at the top there to meet standard. We have to meet code standards for and the 18 inches. It's all spelled out there.
And this will all be with non-toxic preservatives.
That is correct. No CCA. And all we're going to do is use a small hand auger, probably most likely, to dig these holes. So there's no machines or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I think
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think you had a comment on revegetating anything that might have been disturbed.
Yeah, so, I noticed a lot of areas there that foot traffic has been, basically ruined these areas, one on the one property line, one around this area of the stairs, and then a pathway on the other. Anywhere that's been disturbed, I recommend in the filing, and we'd be happy to have it in the order, that we'll revegetate it. Most of it can be with beach grass, I think, or if the board recommends something else that they'd like to see in there, we'd be happy to put it in. I don't think it warrants a full planting plan because it's just some sparse areas that I was going to get. You can see down the bottom that there was a wattle. I don't know if you were down there, but in the past, somebody had put a wattle down there and restored some of that bank with beach grass. And kind of the intent was to expand on that a little bit.
Benjamin, do you have any ideas on that, on the revegetation?
Yeah, I would kind of agree that just seeing the existing vegetation is pretty hardy, that beach grass just kind of filling in the gaps like throughout the bank with beach grass would kind of satisfy the erosion control issues in general.
And beach grass wouldn't require any, you'd probably plant it, during the fall? Or
Yes.
The winter.
Winter, okay. So it wouldn't need any extraneous irrigation or anything?
No.
Nah, it's just grass. All right.
Leon,
yes,
I have
sir.
two questions.
Go ahead, Michael.
The first question, the issue is whether there should be an aluminum removable section at the bottom, in which the application sort of leaves that open to us. It doesn't seem like it's a high velocity zone.
No.
No, there's a lot of protection there out in the water.
Yeah. The reason I did put that in, I don't think it's warranted, but I guess somewhere around this peninsula, somebody had put a stairway in that was pretty broken up or damaged, and there were some issues with it. So I didn't know how strongly the board felt about that. I think it'd be better to just leave it in this area. We've got a healthy marsh in front of it. I don't think anything would really happen to it.
Right.
That makes sense to me. The second small question on page 3, I don't know if it's terminology or typo, but you say the bottom portion of the dock is within the coastal beach area. Did you mean stairway?
That is a typo, excuse me. That's on page.
So that's actually going off of the property?
No, it's all in our property.
I see.
The typo was dock instead of stair.
Right.
It should have just said stairway. Sorry.
Okay. Just want to make sure that I.
You okay then, Michael?
Yeah, no, sure. It's just a question. I didn't know if the bottom portion was going to be a square
a
pad, or whether it was just going to be the last step.
Yeah, it
we're
looks
just
like
gonna.
the last step.
We're just gonna dead end it right into the sand.
Marty, you have a question?
Yeah, I just want the tree at the top before the stair goes down is dead. Is that going to be taken out as part of this process? The second picture that we had, I think, shows where the staircase is going down. There's a dead pine right there.
Let me pull my picture. Hold on.
I think it's the second picture that we have.
I see it. If the board feels that it's better to remove it, we can remove it.
Well, you want to keep it. It's up to you. But
yeah. I mean, it's just the root structure kind of holds the sand together.
It does. It provides a little bit of habitat as well. So.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything else? All right. Are there any abutters that have anything to say?
Let me check. I don't think we got any letters in, but now that you say that, I know a lot of people looked at the file.
the stairway will be a big improvement. Also save the bank.
All right, let's,
There's one of your votes there.
nope, nothing. No letters.
Okay, all right. All right, then I move that we approve the La Francia 31st Avenue map 30, parcel 123 NOI to construct a 60-foot by 4-foot wood beach access stairway.
Second, Mike.
All right. And Benjamin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Michael
Yes.
and Marty
Yes.
and Leon, yes. Okay, you're good to go.
Roy, can I just ask Roy, do you have one complete electronic set of your application? Because I have page 1 and page 3 of the performance standards narrative
I
alternative
think there
analysis.
is only page 1, and that page 3 is supposed to be page 2.
Oh, okay, because I was wondering what I was missing on
No,
page.
I was too when I pulled the file.
Okay.
Okay.
Form number, Hillary.
This is an order of conditions. I'm just jotting down some conditions
is
we need
NOI.
to be done by hand. We have asked in the past that some type of identifying information go onto the wooden stairway
right.
that get burned in or etched in. So do we want map and parcel etched or address etched onto the bottom portion of the stairwell?
That's fine.
Okay. That way, if it does wash away, we can know who to ticket, or at least let them know where their stairway is. Okay, that's a done deal. The
We need
next
a
one,
supervisor.
yeah.
The contractor you need?
No, a site supervisor. So we have a commission member who serves as the site
Oh.
supervisor. This person attends the pre-construction site visit, the certificate of compliance inspection, and can answer questions if any arise during construction.
So Marty, it's either you or I. We're both close.
Yeah.
I've
When's
never,
likely-
I'm supervisor on one other application, so I'm not quite sure how to do it, but I'm certainly willing.
Well, I'm on 4 and I still don't know how to do it. I don't know that they're not calling me, I guess. So, so I heard a non volunteer there.
No, I'll certainly do it. No problem.
Okay.
Okay, Marty.
Form number?
The form number is at 5 for order of conditions.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, the next one is Duck Creek Development, 20 Village Lane, map 47, parcel 1. Construction of a single-family dwelling, addition, alterations to an existing building, septic upgrade, and removal of invasives.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Stephanie Sequin with Ryder and Wilcox, and I'm representing Duck Creek Development. Roland Latender is with us today. He's the applicant, and also Teresa Sprague with Blue Flax Design. Just as a little bit of a recap, as this is a continued hearing, this is a redevelopment of a 2-acre commercial property located on the corner of Route 6 and 20 Village Lane. What's being proposed is a total of 5 dwelling units that will have a total of 8 bedrooms. We're installing a new well and a new septic system that will include a nitro wastewater treatment system, which has DEP approval for nitrogen reduction. The property abuts Hatches Creek and have a bordering vegetated wetland with, we're showing the 50 and 100-foot buffers from the edge of the wetland, and also the 200-foot riverfront from the edge of the creek. 2 of the buildings that are on the site or being proposed are within either the 100-foot buffer or within the riverfront. One of the buildings is existing and is going to be altered to accommodate the new dwelling unit. And then we're also proposing one new building within your jurisdiction. At the last meeting, you had questions about the size and construction appearance of the building. So since the last hearing, we did provide building elevations for these two buildings. The first set of plans that are labeled, they're referred to as the rearmost one-bedroom house, which is the proposed building located to the east of the property. As you can see on the building elevations, it will be a two-story house. There is a deck on the back that will be constructed on posts supported by sonotubes, not on a poured foundation. The back of the foundation is somewhat exposed because the grade drops off. So we're not proposing to add fill to bring that up to grade. We're just letting the existing grade drop naturally along the side of the building. The dimensions of that building, it's not on the plan, but I can tell you is 32 by 24. So it's a pretty modest sized building because it's only one bedroom.
790 square feet.
The other set of building plans are labeled small house remodel. So that's the existing building that's there. We included the existing elevations and the proposed elevations, as well as the foundation plan. So it is an existing one-story building with a walkout basement that's going to become a two-story building, and Roland explained at the last meeting how that would be accomplished. The existing foundation is going to remain. It's noted on the foundation plans that is the case, and the basement is going to remain unfinished. We are showing a proposed first floor deck that is above that walkout level. And as you can see on the elevations, the deck is cantilevered out from the foundation. So it's not touching the ground. It's allowing existing vegetation to remain underneath it. And then the only other change to the footprint is just a narrow walkway leading from the deck out to the front of the building, and then just a small front porch at the entrance, which is outside of the 50-foot buffer. So the only increase in footprint within the 50-foot buffer is 153 square feet of that proposed first floor deck. You would also ask at the last meeting that we provide some coverage, existing and proposed coverage figures, which I've added to the site plan. I also included, just so you could see where we were coming up with those figures, a worksheet that shows the breakdown of the existing and proposed structure and hardscaping and decking, broken down to the 0 to 50-foot buffer, 50 to 100-foot buffer, and then everything within the 200-foot riverfront. So just to summarize those three areas, in the 0 to 50-foot buffer, the change from the existing to proposed coverage is the addition of 153 square feet of deck, which I just went over. In the 50 to 100-foot buffer, there is a net increase of 2,083 square feet, which is a combination of new building, decks, and the hardscaping, the parking area, walkways, etc. And then within the riverfront, which includes the figures of the 0 to 50 and 50 to 100, just to make that clear, that's not being added on to those other buffer zones. It's incorporating those. We have a net increase of 5,921 square feet. The mitigation that is being proposed on the Blue Flax plan is just under 15,000 square feet, I think 14,955. So the ratio of the proposed mitigation to the total increase in coverage within the riverfront, the 5,921 square feet, is roughly 2.5 to 1. So I think that's, I know a lot of commissions have a sort of rule of thumb. They like to see 2 to 1 mitigation for any increase in coverage. So it's definitely covering that and then some. So that's all I have to go over. What has been, submitted last hearing. I know Teresa is here. I don't know if she has anything to add, or if the commissioners have any questions for.
Teresa, do you have anything you'd like to add? I think you spoke this last time, right?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Teresa Sprague with Blue Flax Design. I don't have anything additional. One question that did come up at the last hearing. There was a question regarding an eastern red cedar tree in the footprint of the proposed 1-bedroom dwelling. I did go out to the site and took a look at that. There is a very sickly eastern red cedar tree. It's completely covered with English ivy vines, and the leader has been either cut or blown out of it. And it's sort of being overwhelmed by a black locust tree that's in that area. So it is degraded. Even if we were to somehow try to protect this tree, shift the house or something to protect it, as soon as we remove the invasive vegetation from around it, it would likely fall over. And we are proposing to add 3 eastern red cedar trees to mitigate for the loss of any of the native trees. There are a couple of cherry trees in the footprint of that house as well, but again, they're all completely degraded by invasive vines and totally surrounded by invasive vegetation. And there are also a handful of locust trees, which we're proposing to remove as invasive. So really everything in that area where the proposed dwelling is, or where they're proposing the 1-bedroom dwelling within the 100-foot buffer zone, is entirely degraded. The entire shrub layer is multiflora rose, burning bush, border privet, and then vines, including and autumn olive, and then vines are bittersweet and English ivy throughout that entire area. So there's no healthy native vegetation in the area. And I think the invasive species management and the replanting of native vegetation will much better protect the wetland resource area than what's currently existing now. So thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Teresa. Stephanie, if when they pull the roof on this thing, they determine that the structure cannot withstand the second story being put on it, what is your plan there?
Can I say something? Hi, it's Roland Latender. The foundation isn't really that old, and it looks, we've inspected it. It's in excellent shape. So we're not, and it's not a very big structure. So we're not really concerned about that. And also, when we lift the roof up, we're going to go to 2x6 construction, and we've had Coastal Engineering review the plans.
Okay.
And Mr. Puffer came out and inspected the structure.
Right. Well, given its current condition of this place and its use, this will probably be a pretty good sized improvement. And if we can stabilize the areas within the 100-foot with the plantings that you talked about, Teresa, that sounds pretty good. So are there any questions or statements by the commissioners?
Yes, Leon, I had one question. So the main thing in the 50 that is added is the proposed deck. How did you calculate how big to make that deck?
Well, it was engineered by the Mr. Puffer, who's an engineer, and we just made it probably big enough to be useful and small enough to, fit in and not be a big deal. So it's just a nice little deck. You're on the other side of Route 6 because Route 6 is noisy.
Yeah.
Just a place to sit outside.
So you said the deck is, so what are the dimensions of it?
Deck.
12 by 14.
12 by 14. So it's purely sort of aesthetic is the reason for having it 12 by 14 as opposed to 8 by 8 or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it seems like a reasonable size. So if there's like 4 or 5 people, you can sit
Yeah.
out there comfortably and, chat.
Personally, I don't think much would be served. Having just expanded a deck that was too small myself, I don't think that the difference in size would particularly preserve the environment that much more. What are your feelings on that, Michael?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it seems to me if that's in the 50 and is sort of the most egregious pushing of our regulations, then that might be something to think about.
Yeah, true.
We are cantilevering it, which adds quite a bit of expense to it. So it's going to be basically floating in the air.
So there's no
did
work
want-
within the ground required for the deck.
Right, we're not going to have any sonotubes. Nothing within the 50. There'll be no sonotubes there.
Is there any other questions?
Well, I think we might put a condition that if in fact you end up doing anything with the foundation for that building, that you'd have to come back to us. In other words, you're saying the foundation's in good shape. If that's fine, then you can go ahead. But if you're going to start expanding it or reconstructing it, then it's going to have some detrimental effect within the 50.
But strictly speaking, within the 50, there is no new construction. So what you're asking for is a waiver for the deck, sort of amounts to.
Except there's no construction, there's no work within the ground, which is what we try to prohibit.
Right,
So it's
right.
cantilevered and
Yeah,
vegetation
exactly.
will grow underneath it.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I think it was designed with our regulation in mind.
That's fine. And as long as the design is followed, that's
Yes.
good. But sometimes we have people who decide partway through that, no, in fact, you had to do something different. And then we're faced with an as-built, which we didn't approve.
Absolutely.
right. Yes, we've had that problem with houses that are being redone in the past. You certainly met.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Benjamin.
Yeah, this might just be clarification, but is the existing timber retaining wall going to be replaced with a stone wall? Is that the idea?
Well, I think right now the existing timber wall seems like it's in pretty good shape, even though it's, timbers are probably 40 years old, but
I think just for clarification of the application, like that's just that wall is staying as is, or
Is that right?
Uh,
Are you going to reinforce it, or are you going to?
I like doing a good job. So if we looked at it, we're gonna have my company, we make silt fence. We're gonna have a bunch of silt fence out there. If a little bit of sand got moved around, if we're careful, would it really cause any damage to anything?
Any other statements or questions?
I would like to say something, if I might, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly.
I think the application is a good one. The property certainly is in need of rehabilitation. On the site visit that we had was something's got to be done there, and so I'm all in favor of it, and I think it should be approved.
Do I take that as a motion?
Yes.
Then I will second that motion. Michael, how do you vote?
Yes.
Benjamin?
Yes, although can I still add one condition? Just
may.
help
Of course.
a little bit. Do we normally do this to require nothing being stored underneath the deck?
Right.
And that has to be completely open. So just
Right.
if we can add that condition, then yes.
I have no problem with that.
Yeah. Okay. So that condition will be added. How do you vote then, Ben?
Yes.
And Michael, you already voted? Is that
Yes.
right? And Marty?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So this will be good for the property. I hope all goes well.
Thank
you
you
very
very
much.
much for your time.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. Thanks.
Okay, let me find. where am I?
Form number, Hillary, please.
5.
That's another 5, right?
Yep.
Thank you.
2 5s. Okay.
Supervisor.
I'll be the supervisor on that one. Even though it's a long way from my house.
You'll be great.
I'll be interested in seeing how this goes. So
Or Leon, if you don't want it, we could be the supervisor because they're putting in the enhanced IA, so we'll be out there anyway.
okay, you want to?
If we may as well.
Might as well. Okay, so that's all done. We're ready.
That's all done.
Okay. Ingram, 15 Pine Point Road, map 21, parcel 41, request for certificate of compliance. And Mr. Peabody, you're here?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and commissioners. Am I being heard?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Good. That's a crumb of good news. My name is Gordon Peabody. I work with Safe Harbor Environmental. It's a small interdisciplinary consulting group on Duck Creek Marsh and Wellfleet. And we're here representing the Ingram's request for certificate of compliance for a project that was delayed by COVID, and other details came and went during the project. And the bottom line is I'm rarely happy with vegetation, and I'm deeply impressed with the amount of effort, energy, and expense they put into the vegetation here. I never expected to see that, and I'm very pleased to present this to the commission. What we tried doing was, because it's so confusing looking at a site plan and trying to interpret the different species, we just took some pictures and put them around the site plan. Has everyone had a chance to see this?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm hopeful.
Yep. It looks great.
So I'd like to point out also that really one of our hot buttons always with any kind of patio, and I know they reduced this patio and whatnot, but well, what's going to happen when it rains? And we have a performance standard that we want 5 gallons of water to be absorbed within 60 seconds. And so we dumped a 5-gallon bucket of water on this. Within 60 seconds, it was gone. I was so impressed, I took a picture, but that, 3/8 washed pea stone under the patio really does its work. Gravity does its work. And an awful lot of the material at grade on the Cape is really a class 1 for percolation. So there's not a lot of resistance. So I can answer any questions the commissioners may have.
I think this is a big success, this project. I mean, for a house that's right on the edge of 6.
I should point out that the shed that was put up improperly was approved with an RDA that we did in September of last year.
That's correct. Thank you.
Right. Well, it looks good to me. I think we ought to. Sign the certificate of compliance. So I move that we sign that we approve the certificate of compliance for 15 Pine Point Road, map 21, parcel 41.
I second that, Ben.
Okay, thank you. Ben, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Michael?
Yes.
Marty?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Nice job. Really.
Form
looks
8.
Thank you
Pardon?
for your support.
Form 8.
8. Thank you.
2 5s and an 8.
2 5s and an 8.
2 5s and an 8.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
That's the current score. Okay, great. And we have Miller, 246 King Philip Road, map 34, parcel 12, an RDA to remove dead trees and plant bare areas with native vegetation. We were out there this morning. It's pretty clear where the dead vegetation is. It wasn't, as I recall, it wasn't as clear sometimes exactly what areas, but now that I see this, I can see the areas that we're talking about. What trees are we going to remove?
May I speak?
Yes, you may. Please do.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Gordon Peabody. I'm with Safe Harbor out of Wellfleet, and I'm representing this proposal for limited planting. This is a pretty ratty site. There's a lot of considerations when it comes to removing any kind of dead trees. You don't want to vacate accipiter perches that birds of prey are counting on. They're very possessive and they're very peculiar about which branches they want to sit on. However, at some point in the life of any tree, it's being consumed by herbivores, and the carbohydrates are being transitioned to protein. Then the tree dies. Now, the upper part of the tree, the branches, the trunk, stop performing. They stop contributing, but the roots have become just like free beer at a party for termites. So now the termites are starting to consume the roots. And as they become more successful consuming the roots, the tree is going to topple. And when it topples, it's going to destabilize the bank, which we don't want. My personal opinion is a lot of these trees are not happy here. They're all stressed. Would not be a place where I would necessarily willingly plant a tree. It's a very high stressed environment. However, that does not mean, I look at everything as a resource. That does not mean if we're removing some of the dead trees, and most of them are fairly small, and some of them can be left as is, we don't want to sterilize the area. The carbon that was sequestered, the nitrogen that's in the wood, we want to leave that and leave it on site, and a lot of that will be reconsumed as the succession continues and whatever is going to grow there. In terms of what's going to grow there, as I said, I'm not always right, but I am not in favor of planting trees where we see trees dying. I prefer planting small ecosystem energy bundles, you know, some bayberry, some goldenrod, definitely crinkle hairgrass in an area, and create a little bit of ecological muscle that can continue growing out, but not just to plant it randomly, to plant it for the fall planting season, get the fall rains, spring planting when you have the spring rains. We collect the seeds for crinkle hairgrass ourselves. We've been fairly successful in regrowing them on various sites. There's a tremendous amount of what I would have to call heavy mulch on the site. The only thing that we contribute, and I've mentioned this before to the commission, some people think it's strange, or some broken oyster shells. That's because the calcium in the oyster shells sacrifice the calcium ions with acid rain. So the groundwater can carry incrementally more nutrients, which helps spurs on growth. And what we really want is we want to get good root depth to be able to sustain these things. I hope I haven't said too much.
No, that's very informative. Was there a fire in this area or something? It looked like it had a grass fire or something there a year or so.
Not on my watch.
Leon, I've got an image. I think can you see it now?
Not yet.
Not yet.
There it is. Oof. I mean, that looks exactly like there'd been a grass fire there or something.
That's not something that I'm
aware
of. I see one of our stakes there.
Yeah,
I'm seeing
It's-
green coming through it, so it wasn't
yeah,
too recent.
yeah, I see. Yeah, but, okay. Well, it doesn't really matter.
Well,
Sounds like
oftentimes
it'll-
you can get
Leon?
lightning strikes
Leon?
on a bank.
Leon,
Marty, go ahead.
that's me standing in the background there, by the way.
Could tell by those chicken legs of yours.
What,
The
what
other
I was
thing,
gonna, what I was gonna suggest was that oftentimes on a coastal bank, you will get random lightning strikes
Hmm.
as your ground charge comes in across the water and there's a cloud charge that is above it. And as it moves up a slanted surface, the ground charge and the cloud charge get close enough that you have a discharge
Right.
and you'll have a strike.
Benjamin, do you have anything to say about the planting plan here?
Sorry, were you asking me?
Yes, I was.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
It looks great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is a great project that, you know, like these bare spots are
Yeah.
just waiting for invasives to just show up. So I love the proactiveness.
Yep, I think this will be a great improvement to the property.
Leon, can I ask one more question of
You
Gordon?
may.
Okay, in February last year, the Mr. Miller was fined $200 because of cutting of trees, trimming of trees. I don't know if you remember that, but you were, I believe,
Okay.
there. It's hard to tell, but there are some trees there with tops. Can you see whether that would be a year-old growth or whether that's something new trimming?
Is that
Ooh, I do
question
not
directed-
think Mr. Miller would have gone back and trimmed anything without permission.
Well, I
He,
certainly hope so.
yeah, no, he would never do that. I've spoken to him a number of times and he just absolutely would not do that.
And
Oh,
also,
okay.
I prefer that my name not be on it.
No, he definitely did not do any additional trimming. I'm 100% sure of that.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't
okay.
need help looking bad.
Do I hear a motion?
This
Yes,
is
I
an
would move the
RDA
application. I would move
and
the application.
All right, I'll second. Ben, how do you feel?
Well, Hillary has something to say, I think.
I'm sorry, Hillary, what do you got?
yeah, I was just gonna say that this is an RDA and the work is on the bank. And I just wondered if it's easy to traipse down this bank or what is your plan for accessing these sites? Are you gonna go from the bottom? Are you gonna go from the top? Are you gonna go from the stairs? What's the method?
Yeah. This is a very accessible site because it's fairly hard packed. And so we would go horizontally from the stairway and we rarely move up and down. But when we do, we just work flat footed so
Okay.
that there's no, and
Mhm.
everybody gets it.
Yep.
Knows it.
Thank you.
Good question.
All right, so I've had a motion and it was seconded. I seconded it. So Benjamin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes, and this is a -2 because it's in the bank?
Correct.
Okay, and Marty?
Yes,
And Leon, yes. So that's a 4-0. And that would be, this is an RDA,
Yes,
Yes.
-2.
and what form would we be signing for that? Is that a 5?
Why don't you go ahead and sign
Mhm.
a Form 2.
Two.
Okay.
Okay. 1, 2. Okay. And 1, 2. Okay, so it sounds like that's good to go. So we'll move on. I have to find my,
Mr. Chair, thank you. Commissioners, thank you.
and thank you
Great
for the
question.
informative discussion. That was great.
I appreciate everyone's hard work.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
going to
you,
see
sir.
if I can bow out gracefully here.
There's a big thing that says leave at the bottom. That's a clue. Okay, I've lost my agenda. Somebody want to read off the next agenda item?
Sure, the
Okay.
next hearing is for Giotto, 344 King Philip Road, map 35, parcel 178, and notice of intent, reconstruct rock revetment and access stairway with improvements, including planting areas.
Good evening through the chair. Don Monroe from Coastal Engineering, representing the Brands who own the property. They're present tonight as well. Is it okay if I share or attempt to share my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Is that visible, folks?
It's very small.
Yeah, why don't you make it full screen and zoom a little?
Yep, I will. Once I'll get the plan up here. Is that better?
Yep.
Yes, yes, and we have these too.
Yes, okay.
All right.
So just in brief, the current revetment, I know the folks from the commission, someone out looked at it today, is in its final stages of life from an engineering perspective. And the reason I say that is we did an inspection a number of months ago to get to this stage where we proposed a change in not only the elevation, but also the slope, so that we've got a 2-to-1 slope as proposed and or close to a 2-to-1 slope as best as we can without affecting the upper portion of the coastal bank, which has vegetation on it. Although in a close inspection of the revetment, it was built somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s. And the filter cloth that was used at that time was this fibrous white material that some of us are familiar with because we worked on these revetments back in those days. And that filter cloth is in the process of complete degradation. And the reason that we see some of the loss of material in potholes at the top of the revetment is because the filter cloth is now not holding the sediment back. So rather than wait longer to address this situation, sooner is better, because we can salvage most of the vegetation that's up above, plant vegetation above what we're proposing for a new height. The new height is proposed because the FEMA flood elevation in this location has changed from VL 1112, which was quite a number of years ago, to an elevation 18. That's the base flood elevation, and we're proposing to build to the elevation 20 to protect from overtopping that we're seeing now that is at an elevation of roughly 20 to 22. We're not going all the way to the 22 because we feel that we can blanket and vegetate the portion that would be the 2 to 3 feet above the proposed revetment to establish more vegetation in that zone. So the plan just shows the items that we want to also address. The stairway definitely needs to be repaired and rebuilt. The access path, because of its elevation, how low it is, it's just a trough for water to flow down. So we're proposing to elevate that, and Ponderosa would be able to address more about what that will look like. And then we have a little drainage slot drain proposed right here to a dry well to catch any of the runoff that's in this area, as well as some of the roof runoff, so that it doesn't go down the coastal bank here. We're also proposing planting in this location, because I think if you went over to this area, you could see how there's a potential for runoff that is already happening down in this location. And this area of the revetment shows some greater signs of failing as a result of that, as opposed to some of the areas in the middle. But I'll go through some photographs to demonstrate through the inspection that we did why we, as engineers, are of the opinion that this is a necessary step to repair this existing revetment.
All right, great.
So let me show you or do you want to ask a question about the plan? Should I go through the whole thing and then we can go back and?
Well, I don't know much about the life cycle of a revetment. To me, it looked like it was doing the job and that there was
Sure.
vegetation right down to it. It looked like it was doing a good job to me. But
Totally agree that to person who's looking at it, they would think that. So in all due respect, I want you to show you some things that we look for that are very critical to the life of a revetment. So let me close this out and then see if I can get the photographs up. And I'm not sure, are these showing up here?
Yeah, it's still small. You see your whole desktop.
All right, let me open it up a little more. So remember on the plan, that area that Ponderosa's planning to plant is up in this area. You can see how it's barren behind this tree. So they want to plant that, but there's a evidence right here of water that comes down, as well as the failure underneath of sediment coming out from behind the revetment. So you can see how this sags right here. So unless you look at that from the front, you wouldn't really notice that looking at from the top.
Right.
So that's number one. And then we also have, see this overtopping scarp. That elevation right there is about 20 to 21. And this elevation right here is about between 11 and 12. So that's why we're proposing the increase. But we also see that some of this vegetation, because of the salt spray, is not doing well. So we want to salvage all of these large trees before we lose them to any more slumping that's taking place. So let's go on to the next photograph. And this is a side view. Now, remember those little posts that were there, right? Here's a side view of that slump again, all right? And you can see the voids that are happening, that these rocks are like, they're piled up, but they're not interlocked the way they should be. And the filter cloth is not there to hold the sediment. That's why most of the rocks should be leaning a little bit more towards us as opposed to towards the back of the bank. That, in an engineer's perspective, is a slump failure towards the coastal bank that still affords protection to the toe, but not to the upper portions. And we'll go through those alternatives analysis too, because I think there is some questions about fiber rolls up above. So we can talk about that as well. And I have a couple of examples of an attempt at that in a location that's similar to this in Wellfleet. Let's go to another photo. All right, this is a photo of me investigating under to find the filter cloth. This is the old white filter cloth. See how there's nothing there? The filter cloth has actually been pushed back by the wave because it tore it, because it's so old. You can see the tear marks here. And all that sediment that used to be behind that is gone. So that's a very telling tale that this is near its end of its life. But through the chair, you're absolutely right. It is functioning to protect, but not to the level that it should be, because the owners of the property are concerned about loss of other vegetation at the top as material gets lost out from behind the rock. One more photograph for this part of it. Here's another view looking along the top. Now, this is that area that's right at the very end. This area right here is about 10 feet towards us, and there's more evidence of the material is running down and going in behind the revetment and then being sucked out by wave action through the void spaces, because the filter cloth has really met its life and not doing its job holding. And we're worried about losing this vegetation at the top, because as we lose and get overtopping here, this gets compromised. But if and Denny from Easy Dozer, who's looked at the job, said he could actually rebuild the revetment to the elevation, because we're right at about 20 here, without compromising this vegetation. So Ponderosa will fill in where there isn't vegetation, but we need to take the opportunity now to salvage this before another winter goes by where we might lose that vegetation.
How are you going to get access to this? You're coming down the beach from?
Yes, the plan shows, I forget the name of the landing over there. But this is the construction access to the west. And there's a landing out beyond that Denny has used in the past. This revetment, as a matter of fact, was rebuilt in, we did our research sometime in 2006. And that elevation is a little bit higher than the elevation of the existing revetment. We're going to go a little bit higher than that one, but taper it down to that elevation that is there, and then taper it also down to the revetment that's on this side.
So you're not changing the foot of the revetment? Is it?
No, the toe stays the same because we don't need to change the toe. We have enough loss of material at the top that we can lean it back and get close to the 2-to-1 that we want, and salvage the vegetation that's above.
Didn't you say that you were going to move the toe out toward the water?
I didn't say that in the presentation, so I don't think that's in any of our documents. Let me take a look at the toe. Let's see.
Marty, did you have something you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I just want to know how do you handle the filter? What are you going to do that now it's deteriorated? How do you put new filter in?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so the construction process is it's not difficult, but what happens is the contractor takes the existing revetment completely apart and puts the rocks behind him to protect him from, the high water, and then regrades the bank, the lower part where the rock is sitting now, and then obviously takes off any filter cloth that's there through that grading process, establishes his 2-to-1 slope on the back side of the revetment that's on the, now on the slope that's exposed, and then lays out the filter cloth according to our specs, which is a Marafi 5600 or better, and it's double layered so that it has a much longer lifespan. So we suspect that this would be a 40 to 50 year lifespan on the new revetment.
Thank you.
So through the chair, the toe in section B is slightly seaward. You can see, but we know because we're below mean high water, we have to go to Chapter 91. We have to get a state license to do this work that's below the mean high water line. But this is the first step to that.
Well, this is in a very sensitive area as far as sand migration. All the oyster beds are out there, and we've been having trouble. It sounds as though this actually ought to stop some of the migration because the sloughing of the cliff won't be washing out through the existing revetment. Is that a proper?
Yes.
view on it?
Yes. That is the function of a rock revetment, and so there would have to be some mitigation for that because, of course, we don't want as much coming out as is now to affect any other resource areas, but some nourishment would have to be placed on the face of the revetment to replace the natural amount that might come out of this bank based on the CZM transects, which I'm not sure if we have that calculation, Hillary. I thought we did, but I'll have to verify that. But
it looks like on your project narrative in page A1, you talk about nourishment that was previously required, and then you have a revised calculation.
Yeah, they did that.
Being 187 cubic yards per year.
Yeah.
And that's based on the 275 linear feet of the revetment from 1 foot to 18 feet, which is the height of the wall.
Yeah, correct.
And an average erosion rate of 1.08 feet per year.
Yes. Thank you.
While you're on that page, under alternative 2, it says preferred alternative.
Yes. Maria Brand, who's here, she called me 5 minutes before the meeting and the two of us were panicking. No, this alternative 2 is not the preferred alternative. That shouldn't be there. We do want to reconstruct the access stairs, so it might just be a Scribner error that, obviously we want to construct the access stairs, but not the alternative related to the revetment construction in that paragraph.
Okay, and then a more substantial question. Could you say something more about the way that on the left and the right, your revetment is going to tie into the existing ones? You say it's going to be higher. Are you going to start to get some sort of an end scour where the two come together, where it's running off yours onto behind theirs?
Let's go back to the plan. That's a good question. Let's go down. So first of all, just so Ponderosa knows we're covering theirs. This is their planting scheme that's at that top. And then there's planting over in here. And if one of the reps from Ponderosa is there, we'll turn it over to them. Then right here is where that question. Are you seeing my screen still? I'm assuming.
Yes, we are. Yes,
okay. I'm assuming you're, let's see, let me see if I can get, okay. So the elevation difference between the two, maybe I can do better by going to the section right here. So the elevation difference, this contour here is roughly contour 18, and that contour bends down to here. So they're at like elevation 16, 17. So we're tapering ours well before we get to theirs. So any end scour that might happen would be in this location, but that is heavily vegetated. And if that vegetation gets affected, then we would ask Ponderosa to heavily, plant this area once we're done, so that any
feet, Don, how many feet back from the property line is that?
That's roughly, well, hold on, let me see if I can find something that's relative. I don't have the dimension on there. Hold on.
Yeah, dimension at the bottom.
That's a 10. It's roughly 10 feet.
Seems to me like 15 might give a better buffer to the neighbors.
We can do that. We can slope that back, actually pluck this rocks out and just go to this one here and make it 15. We certainly can do that. No problem. Does that address? And then the same, now over on this side, the elevation here, we'll do the same thing because they're at a little bit lower elevation than that. So we can do the same thing over here, just taper that back and then make sure that this is well planted through Ponderosa after the revetment construction.
And then that front revetments, those almost loose rocks there, they're going to be inundated, right? The water is going to be behind them all the time.
Whatever is the function of that now, because I don't understand why it was ever constructed. I went back in the records to find out that, yes, that's unfortunately, well, on the Brands property, we could, I'm not sure. We had really, that's a darn good question. We can't really do anything. I'm sorry, go ahead.
There's a gap between the revetment and that unknown structure. Is that right? As I recall.
Yes.
So water and sand can transport through there, but are you going to close that off? Is that what I'm saying here?
We're not close. We're let's see, to remain. We could remove the rocks that are on the Brands property, but that would leave this open for. So I would say we should leave that alone so that any sediment that might come off will trap it like a groin or a jetty and slow it down. So I would rather not try to address this because of its the function that it's seemingly to have right now for the neighbors, as well as a portion of the Brands property, is some kind of filtration barrier, I would call it, like a breakwater.
Good. I was just noticing that that would be a difference in the environment there as far as waves.
Well, except it would prevent the sand from traveling in the normal pattern with which it wants to travel, correct?
Right.
Yeah, out here, Hillary, it still would be able to travel. So as sediment comes out through this like a groin,
Yeah.
right? The groins allow sand through. They're not supposed to be built so tight that they don't allow any sediment through. This being the way it is, it's so loose. I would say that much of the sand comes out and then will travel because it's not that far from the toe. So,
yeah.
I have a
Here, so I
question.
Go ahead, Benjamin.
Just a curious question. When was this revetment built? What year exactly do we know?
so the first, yes, we do. I have the research right here. The first rock revetment here was somewhere in 1984. And then it was reconstructed, not this one, but it looks to me like all the revetments in this location are similar genres. So they were probably all built somewhere in the mid 80s. Then the one to the west of this property was rebuilt in 2006. The one on the right has not been rebuilt. The stairs were redone, I believe. That's all that we found. So the one on the east side has not been rebuilt, to our knowledge.
Okay,
So
so I guess my answer is this is the first time we're
Correct.
In the 80s.
Yes.
This specific wall.
Correct. Yep.
That's been a good long run.
Very good.
40 years.
Yeah, even with that white filter cloth, it has done a good job.
Yeah.
So, okay, if there's other questions, I'm certainly.
Right. Well, thanks for informing me as far as the engineering aspects of it.
Okay.
One can. So.
Leon, can I? Okay.
Yes, please do, Michael.
It's another question. We talked about that when we were on the site. The brands have a shower on the deck toward the water, more or less where your arrow is up in there.
Yeah.
And there's no, the water just goes down. It's presumably got soap and all sorts of other things on it.
Yeah.
We recommend whenever there's an outdoor shower like that a layer of wood chips be put underneath it. It's a fairly simple process, but what it does is it stops the nitrogen from running down the cliff, and you were concerned about runoff exactly in that spot.
Yep.
So I would recommend making that a condition that the shower be fitted with a nitrogen reducing wood chip layer.
Okay, the brands are here. Maybe they could just chime in. Maria, do you?
Yes, that's no problem.
Okay.
We spoke about this earlier, and that we're happy to do that.
One of through the chair, was that Benjamin speaking?
I think it was Michael.
Michael. Okay, what I'm looking at too is the contours here. See, this is a 49. This is a 50, then there's a 49. So this is kind of a low spot where that dry well is. So with the wood chips you're talking about and us trying to address any loss of water in this direction, I think we might have that covered.
Yes, I believe it would be a complement to that dry well.
Yep, absolutely.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mark.
I've been very impressed with the engineer's presentation. I had a lot of questions about it after our site visit, but I think he's answered all of them. The thing that concerns me, obviously, when we were out there is that staircase. That has got to be replaced. That thing is dangerous.
Absolutely. We have a section view of the stairs that are proposed. They're much safer. This is granite steps going through the revetment that meet we have to turn this to get this slope that's more gradual. It does go higher, but that's good for vegetation underneath, good for drainage. it just is going to be an all around much better situation than what's there. And I believe, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Marty.
The other question I had is on the path coming down. What are you going to do with that path? You mentioned that it's got to be improved, but what are you going to do? What do you want to do with it?
Okay. Let me see if there's something on, is Ponderosa here?
Yes.
Good. Can you speak to that?
This is Charles Wentz with Ponderosa Landscaping. It goes from elevation approximately 40 to 46 and within 125 feet roughly. And we were going to install stone steps every approximately 10 feet.
Right here, yeah.
15 feet.
Yeah.
And that would reduce the amount of water flow. That's the theory, going down there.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're like earth steps, right? So
yes, they're natural
yeah.
Square cut stones.
Yeah, and then every 10 feet.
They look like bluestone.
Yeah.
So are you going to raise up the level of that pathway?
No, it'll be about the same. It's just minor changes. However, the steps naturally fit in that length.
Did we remind me, those of us who are out there, Marty and Michael, did we see any erosion along the edge of that path that ought to be addressed?
Well, I think it looked like it'd been carrying water down. Okay.
Yeah.
It's also because of the foot traffic, it will depress because that's the natural place where everybody walks. So over time, it's going to depress, just like roadways in Vermont, the dirt roads, they depress. So, but the vegetation on either side, from what I recall, is still pretty vegetated. It's kind of hanging over into the pathway.
We'll be adding some vegetation in areas, including along that path, not the whole thing, but in parts of it, especially where it's barren.
Do we have a full, okay, are those plants at the bottom of what's on the screen now, are those plants that you're planting?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see, it amounts to 261 plants. They're mostly 100 shrubs and 161 woody perennials like switchgrass and bearberry and sweet fern for the small material. I think that'll work in that environment pretty well. And then we'll add Rosa virginiana and beach plum and bayberry.
Those are the only two areas that are barren right now. Is that right?
There are other areas, but those seem to be the ones that needed attention.
Right.
Okay. Right. Any other questions?
I have some.
Go ahead.
Looking at the plan, I don't think you have all of the resource areas labeled. So I think we want to see a revision showing all the resource areas clearly labeled on the plan. I wondered if you had gone out and delineated the bank again, or if you just had this in your file.
No, that's all been relocated, Hillary. So we actually did a field survey. Do you want the resource areas on the plan view? Because I've got the section view where we identify in the section where each resource area is, but we can certainly plot those lines on the plan view.
I wanted to see it on the plan because it looks like there's some salt marsh out in front there, and it's tricky to see that.
Oh, okay.
So I was hoping we could get those. We need to talk still with our shellfish warden. She was not available tonight to review this with us, but I believe we do have shellfish resources right in front and all along the beach where the equipment's going to be traveling. So I want a chance to review that with her and see if we need to offer some mitigation for shellfish when construction occurs. It looks like access is from Omaha.
Correct. Yep.
Which we've done in the past. Omaha is privately owned, I believe, but the town owns a piece of half of it.
Okay.
So I just want everyone to be aware that the select board has a fee structure associated with use of town property and town landings. And you need permission to traverse that from the select board. So that's a new policy that they have in place.
Yep.
And that applies for construction as well as beach nourishment activities. So anytime you use those town landings, you do have to apply to the select board and pay a fee. So
Yep. Okay.
And in the past, we've also had the construction company that does the work make sure that Omaha has been regraded in case the big heavy equipment going down it, had caused any trenching or
and
anything.
the other reason we need to talk with Nancy is because that access is so heavily used by shell fishermen. We need to make sure we're not cutting off access at any points when the shell fishermen need to access the site. So
okay.
So just food for thought on that one. The idea of the fiber rolls up on top of the existing height, you were going to circle back and tell us why that wouldn't work here.
Sure, absolutely. Yep, we can do that.
Okay.
So the easiest way for me to demonstrate first is the CZM fact sheets that talk about where fiber rolls are more appropriate. And because this would be in a wave energy zone, even though it's up above the existing rock revetment, that would still cause a concern about water getting in behind the revetment. And even if the filter cloth is intact, if it gets behind the filter cloth, it'll actually suck material out down from the bottom of the revetment, because there'll be now an aquifer, if you will, that gets opened up by the fiber rolls, because they're not as tight to the inundation of water as the filter cloth that's behind the revetment. So I'll show you a project that was done in Wellfleet where they went through a series of renditions of ultimately having to come to the conclusion that the revetment needed to be built to the elevation of FEMA in the location that this particular revetment I'll show you. It's out on Old Wharf Road. I'm sure Hillary remembers it's the Spar property, and it used to be owned by Pearson. I have some photographs and some and a field report related to that project. So the first photograph I'll show you is the results of a fiber roll array in a velocity zone with a drift fence. This is, I believe that's the Glaze property at the end. This is Bob Berenger's property now, and this is the Spar property, but at the time it was owned by Mr. Pearson. So they attempted to use fiber rolls in this location. Right next door to the, I believe to the right, not sure what, that might be the east, there's the Candell property. The Candell property at this time, when this fiber roll array failed, had a rock revetment at elevation 18. And this was back in 2003. So they were at an elevation next door to the elevation that we're proposing at the Brands, when the elevation of the FEMA for the 100-year flood in this location was elevation 11.
But that didn't have rocks below it, right? The Spar property?
Not yet.
Okay.
The next photograph will show you what Denny was able to do, because the fiber rolls above, he was able to salvage them and save them. And he put a toe revetment in front of, or under and at the same slope, the fiber rolls that weren't totally disarrayed. That is at elevation 11. That lasted a little while. And if you recall, Hillary, that was back when Andrew Petty was working with you, if you remember. So then, because of some additional failure, let me just get this up here. We applied to the commission. Let me see if I can demonstrate. I got to make sure I got the right photograph, folks. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so right here is the former fiber rolls, but there's rock underneath there and it has nourishment over it. We built on top of that and added to the elevation, not to 18, because you could see Candel's wall is back here. It's a little bit higher. This was brought up to elevation 16. So even with the fiber rolls that Denny salvaged up above here, the water got behind this and caused this portion of the revetment to start to drift back towards the slope. It was only a couple of years, and we brought Andrew out to that site and explained what was happening because he could see the change in the grade of this covered rock revetment and realized that we needed to add to the top. So that fetch, which is on Old Wharf Road, is similar to the fetch at King Philip Road. It's in a slightly different location, but the fetch angle is the same. So we are very leery about trying to put fiber rolls above when we did this back in 2006 with the Spire property. So that's the reasoning behind it. We have an example of the fiber rolls not really functioning the way you might think they would if they're up high enough above what you would think might be the wave activity. But in the winter, like the storms of 2018-19, I'm sure that they had an adverse effect to the Brand property, but didn't have any effect to the Spire property because this is all heavily vegetated still. So that's our reasoning. It's more, rather than science, just using something that we know is a good example, why we want to try to avoid that in this case.
And my next question is in regards to beach nourishment. Has this property done beach nourishment in the past?
I don't know if it's been done, Hillary, honestly, and I don't know how long the Brands have owned the property. Maybe
because I couldn't find any records of beach nourishment being done, but yet I remember working with the Brands previously on a project. So I was just curious about that.
Hi, I'm sorry, it's Maria Brand, and this is my husband, Jack, sitting next to me. We have owned this property since 2008. I believe we bought it in May of 2008. And to date, we have not done any significant beach nourishment. We've never done anything. We haven't done anything without permission. We haven't done anything.
I only asked.
Sorry.
That was a simple no.
Yeah, no, I got that. And I only ask because when I looked through my records, I couldn't find any conditions on the property, which led me to believe maybe there was an old condition to renourish when the toe stones became available, but I couldn't even put my hands on that. So I was just curious about that.
No, we want to do this work just really our objective is just to do the right thing by the property and to secure it for the future because we love it. And so we want to do everything that you think is the best thing for the property.
Perfect. And then I would just ask also, I wasn't out at the site today and I'm sorry about that, but looking at some aerial imagery, it looks like there are some other sparse areas of vegetation along the bank. And I wonder if there's more opportunity to stabilize the bank further with more plantings up higher. So I guess that's a question for Charles.
You're
unmuted, Charles.
Yes, we could add that to some of the areas, definitely.
Mhm.
And I think it would improve.
So Hillary, since we have to revise our plan, we'll work with Charles to get maybe a view that shows more planting on the top.
Yeah,
and then as far as
I mean,
hers.
if you really want to do the property right, you should vegetate those voided areas, because the turtles aren't going to climb up the rock revetment to nest up there. So you may as well vegetate it to stabilize it further for the future. And then I had one more question about MIPA. So you need to file with MIPA, and I'm wondering if we leave, you get us the revised plans, we don't close this hearing and you proceed with filing with MIPA, because they're going to require a more detailed alternative analysis plan. And just before we close out something, I'd just like to make sure we're making the right choice by reviewing their
Makes
detailed alternative analysis, if that's.
So Hillary, are you going to be talking with Nancy about?
Yeah, no,
this?
we have to talk with Nancy anyway. Nancy has to review this.
All right.
And I don't know if you've already put the application together with MIPA or not, or what your time frame is for that.
We would be filing, but we didn't file yet because we wanted to get the commission's input before we made that filing. So it kind of makes sense, Hillary, that you could leave it open because we have to file for Chapter 91 as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's going to take some time. So
Yeah.
we'll just
and the reason I ask is because we had another case, I think it was Shadarovsky,
Yep.
where we went through all this back and forth and ruled this out and ruled that out, and then it went through MIPA and they went back to something we had talked about already and liked but threw out, and then we had to hold the hearings again, and it was just messier. So I just feel like if we get the best plan we get, like we've talked about tonight, bring that back to us, send it off to MIPA. We don't vote on anything, but we have a general understanding that we like this. And then we close it once we hear back from MIPA.
That seems fair, as long as we can, I know we don't have to poll the members, but if we get a general idea that the members like this alternative.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think there's, if the fiber rules aren't going to hold up and you're essentially reconstructing what's there but higher and holding it back 15 feet from the neighbor's property on the higher portion, maybe you toss some fiber rolls with heavy planting from that 15 feet to the property line. If that's, I just,
do that.
I don't know that there's an alternative, because we don't want to lose the property to erosion and you have more nourishment here. So it doesn't seem like it's unpermittable by any stretch of the imagination.
Right. And I think if we were to do a straw poll right now, generally we're in agreement that this is a good plan, that's good for the property.
I'm in agreement with that. So
so why don't we proceed the way, I'm really interested in talking with Nancy Chavetta, because right around the corner, we've had some really serious problems with sand getting into the oyster bed, or into the equipment they've got there. So
we did also, just for anyone's interest, we did receive a letter, I guess today's the 17th, today from DMF. And they talk about the project lying within horseshoe crab habitat. And they talk about a bit about the horseshoe crabs and when the eggs hatch, and a benchmark stock assessment indicates that the horseshoe crab stock status has shifted from poor to neutral. So efforts should be made to protect the species and facilitate further stock improvement. Although I'm not sure they tell us how to do that. So that's
is there a TOI on that too, though?
Yeah. So then they offer the following comments for consideration. NOI alternatives and some components of the preferred alternative include soft solution strategies. So they talk about the quad roles, but they don't have the benefit of hearing from Dawn tonight because they're not on the hearing. So they wanted more information on the alternative, coupled with a strategic vegetation restoration plan and additional erosion protections that do not increase the area of the revetment. But what we heard is you're not coming out farther seaward, you're going up landward.
Yes.
And then they go on to say past beach nourishment was not mentioned.
Yeah.
And I think there was no condition on there to do nourishment, so clearly it wouldn't be mentioned. They do put on a time of year restriction
Yep.
To protect sensitive life stages of horseshoe crabs
Yep.
from construction activities and potential nesting beaches. Construction activities could bury and crush spawning crabs in nests and eggs in nests buried too deep not to hatch. So construction activities would not take place on the beach from May to July of any year. And construction activity, including staging, construction material and equipment, as well as equipment transit to and from the construction site, should avoid intertidal habitat to the greatest extent possible. As much work as possible should be conducted from the upland portion of the site. That's fairly standard. And any work in the intertidal zone should be limited to low tide, such that work is conducted in the dry. And any beach nourishment should be consistent with the beach nourishment guide, and beach fill material should be appropriate grain size to match existing.
All standard, pretty much.
Okay, so we're going to be talking to Nancy, and you're going to be modifying your plan. Is that correct?
Yep, correct.
And possibly an extension of the planting.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
One other thing, I'm not sure, did we talk about the material of the walkway? What type of wood you're proposing, or?
The stairs,
Yeah, not the part in the wall, but the part on the land.
we didn't talk about the materials. I'm not sure if we list that on a plan. Now, let me take a quick look here. I'm sure we got some mention of it on the plan.
I'm looking.
Yeah, there may be something in the notes of the, on the plan.
I was looking in the narrative.
Okay.
Can I say something about the stair?
You may.
You know, we currently have a wooden, I believe it's a typical cedar wooden stair. And I think that I think that the material that we would use would be a better, stronger, newer version of what we currently have. It wouldn't be substantially different from what we have. It would be stronger, you know, newer.
Right. Well, the issue is more of making sure that the chemicals that were used to treat it to make it resistant to rot has to be ecologically sound.
Right. I believe, I don't, wait a minute.
I'm checking on the Ponderosa plan. It might be on there.
It's going to be mostly sand where it's relatively flat, so that won't change. But I don't know if there's a boardwalk leading to the steps.
I don't think. Yeah, there was, because there was a gate at the top. Right.
Right.
Yeah, Hillary, we
There's
don't,
a little lead in.
we don't mention in the notes the type of wood, but as in the past, we would prefer to be able to use on the posts the MCA, because CCA, I guess, let's see. Or we could use, like we've done in the past, we make sure the CCA, if it's used, is not cut on site and it's dried for a couple of months before it's used. But I don't have a note on here for that, so that's something we'd have to
Yeah, that's something that ought to be
add to the plan.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
I think
Do we all
that's all I
understand
got.
what the action plan is then for all of us? Sounds like. So I move that will you be able to have all this ready by the 21st of September? Actually, the 14th of September, because
Yes. I can say yes for coastal, but Ponderosa, would you guys?
Yes,
Okay.
we can do that.
Okay. Yeah, so the next meeting's on the 21st, but it needs to be in a week before that. Okay, with that, I move that we continue this until September 21st.
Second,
All right. Michael,
Yes.
Benjamin,
Yes.
and Marty,
yes.
and Leon, yes. Okay, and thank you, Donald, for
Sure.
educating me on the life cycle of
You're welcome.
successful but aged. I guess
Yes.
I could apply the same to me.
Somewhat
And Don, I
but
might
definitely
just
aged.
make a suggestion that you include all of this information in your MIPA application so they better understand why the existing system is failing.
Yep.
And give the demo on why the fiber rolls won't work at this location. Because
use
I
all-
think there's gonna be questions about that, and make it clear that the revetment is not coming further seaward.
Okay, got it.
As Mrs. Brandt knows, we were very concerned today when we were out there looking at as to why it's necessary. You did a great job, Mr. Monroe.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much, Marty.
Yep, I
Thank
just
you.
strictly did not know the engineering. So.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, well, good luck to you both.
All right.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you,
night.
everyone. Thank you
Thank
See
very
you in a
much.
month.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. So where are we at on, we have, what, how many twos and how many fives do we?
We
That's all I
have
care about.
two 5s and 1 2, but I have 4 checks. Oh, and 1 8.
1-8.
1-8, okay.
Leon, when we have a second,
Pardon me?
just because we have a second, and I heard them mention this evening about the horseshoe crabs. There's a great article in National Geographic. I subscribe to the National Geographic about the validity and why it's necessary for the horseshoe crabs, that they are diminishing and they've become so valuable, especially during the whole COVID crisis that we've gone through, because it's their blood that they use, okay, as a coagulant for a lot of the vaccines that are being produced. Great article.
Can you share it or bring it in? and
Sure,
copy
sure.
it
No,
so we
I'll
can
bring it in.
scan
I subscribe to National Geographic, so
Great.
I can bring it in.
Great.
Does anybody else have anything they want to say before? we
Yeah, at the last meeting, I shared with you I don't want to call it a slideshow, but information for a slide for the select board.
Oh,
meeting.
yeah, right.
All right, let's just circle back there in September so we can
Okay,
let them know.
all right,
Great, that's all.
okay.
Now, one other thing, a number of commissions are having liaisons with the select board. Is that something that we're going to have to do?
No, we don't have to. We heard about that at our department head meeting today, and none of the regulatory boards have one. We can if we want one, but we don't have to.
And it would mean that we go to select board meetings or they come to us?
I'm not sure how it works.
Okay, then. I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Marty, how do you vote?
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Benjamin?
Yes.
I guess that was a yes. And
Yes.
okay, thank you. And I also vote.
Thank
Thank you
you.
all.
Thank you all.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.